The Jua, ladies and gentlemen, old boys, pupils of Selborne College, and guests. On behalf of Selborne College and the Old Selbornians Association, I welcome you to this webinar where we will be discussing in detail lessons learned from sport. My name is Chase Morrison. I'm employed at Selborne College and I'm the current first team head coach. This evening's discussion will be predominantly for the boys, especially the boys that are looking to go into the field of sport. We will get thoughts from our panel. So 5 honorable Old Selbornians that have made a mark in the sporting world in some or other way. Panelists will share their experience, what they've learned over the years, and what they wish they would have known a little bit earlier going into the field of sport. Just a couple of house rules from me. Please make sure that all microphones and cameras are turned off. And then the last thing is that there will be a Q&A session right at the end of all of the panelists. Once they've had their say, there will be a Q&A session. If you have a question for any of the panelists, please type it into the type bar. All those questions will pop up on my screen and I will go through all of those and try as best as possible to get those questions answered. All right, without further ado, the first panelist that I am going to introduce is none other than Mr. Leon Lyons. Leon matriculated from Selborne in 2016 and then joined the Western Province Rugby Institute. In 2018, he represented the Junior Springboks, after which he made his Currie Cup debut. Leon is currently a professional rugby player with the Stormers and Western Province. Leon, thank you for your time this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Privileged to be here.
Over to you, bro.
Okay, so the questions that I'm going to be answering, actually just got a message there. So the first one is the most favorite and most influential coach while I was at school. Yeah, while I was at school, there's so many coaches that really made an impact on my life going from like grade 8 to Mr. Kutsie, grade 9, Mr. Kaz. Like the coaches at Selborne College, they were basically like fathers to the players, and it's very difficult. But obviously, the one coach that's at the top of that list is Coach Pete. I think that when I was playing rugby at school, I wasn't so sure of where I wanted to be and how rugby systems worked and the setup and everything. But when we started playing in matric, and I was coached by Piwe Nomlomo, he's just joined now, just talking about you, Coach PZ. How's it? Yeah, so basically, he just brought a level of professionalism to practice. You know, everything was timed, everything was monitored. Never had that before. It was quite a eye-opening experience having Coach P as the first team coach. But yeah, I think another thing that was quite big was Coach B. He actually, many coaches have a way of trying to get you to play. Some will use dominance, or you know, they'll like tune you if you do something wrong. But Coach B almost made you want to play for him, not to disappoint him. He was like I said, a father figure at Selborne for me growing up. Yeah, so that's the first question.
Leon, if you don't mind,
yes.
so let me ask the question.
Okay.
The greatest memory, your greatest memory. So as far as I understand, you were the athletics captain in your year. Apparently threw a shot put and a discus a fair distance. What is your greatest memory on the sports field?
Greatest memory on the sports field. Okay, so it's definitely when I played against the British and Irish Lions, the Stormers. Yeah, we had a bubble before. There was a whole lockdown and everything, and COVID regulations. And Alistair Vermaak got injured. He's my opposition loose-head prop at the time, and Stephen Kitsoff was at the Springboks. So yeah, so when he got injured, I was the next one in line to go and play against the British and Irish Lions to start. And when I ran on the field, it was a dream come true. One of the greatest moments that I've ever had in my life. It was honestly such an adrenaline rush, and just really a privilege to be on the field representing my team.
Leon, can you speak briefly, just in general, about the lessons that you have learned in sport in general?
The lessons that I've learned in sport in general. So yeah, there's many lessons in sport. Sport it's not just something that you do. It takes up your whole life. It's not just one moment you're going to go and play sport and then you come back home and then you're not a sportsman. So your whole life you have to be constantly doing the best you can to excel, and it's all about performance at the end of the day. So a lesson that I've learned is that you have to do the things off the field very well, and you have to sacrifice quite a bit to make it or to achieve what you want to achieve. Yeah, there's many athletes that are very talented. They got the strength, they got the speed, they got all that, but they don't have the ability to go back home and do the things they need to do with diet and all the small stuff. So with sport, a big lesson that I've learned is having to take care of your body, your mind, and also perform on the field.
Leon, thank you. So before you steal the show this evening, I want to introduce our next panelist, Mr. Aviwe Mgijima. Aviwe matriculated from Selborne in 2006 and is currently a professional cricketer with the Cape Cobras and Western Province. Aviwe made his first-class debut for Border in 2007, and in September 2017, he scored his maiden first-class century playing for Cape Cobras against the Knights. Aviwe, over to you. Could you elaborate for us just about the lessons that you have learned in sport as well?
Good evening, everyone. It's obviously a pleasure for me to be able to speak to you guys tonight. Well, and yeah, I'm very grateful for the opportunity as well. I was actually going to speak about my life story. So actually, attacked me there with a question. I've obviously learned a lot from playing professional sports. Going through Selborne and going to a boys' school for me was actually the first step, because I come from College Street, which was a very small school. And there you kind of learn to compete against a lot more boys, and a lot more guys want to play at the sport that you're playing at. So you kind of learn that competitiveness from there. I think that's the biggest thing. For me, I'm very competitive. So I always make sure that I give my best whenever I need to. Also, I think I learned a good work ethic there at Selborne. When I remember in grade 10, as a 15, 16-year-old, getting dropped from the first cricket side there, and obviously wanting my spot back. So the whole winter, I actually worked hard and turned out to do well that season, very well that at the end of that year. And in grade 11 and grade 12, started dominating school cricket. I think that's where it switched for me, where
All right, I think we've lost Aviwe temporarily, and until he joins us again, I think I'm going to introduce our next panelist, Mr. Lindsay Vaya, a very familiar face if you watch a lot of the Springbok rugby. Lindsay matriculated from Selborne in 2006 and then completed his sport management diploma at NMU. During this time, he played and captained for the EP Kings under 19 side and progressed to the EP under 21 side the following year. He started his professional career in PE and with the EP Kings in 2010 as an assistant technical analyst. The rest is history, being appointed the technical analyst of the Springbok rugby team in 2017. He got gold medals for his participation at the 2019 World Cup and victory over the British and Irish Lions in 2021. Lindsay, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so also on my side, thanks for having me, everyone, and good evening. I think just first things first, for the past two panelists were speaking now about how we work hard and you got to work hard and stuff like that. And I follow that as well. It's all about your work ethic and how hard or what are you willing to put in. Why? Because against trust. You trust the process that you're putting in. If you're not working hard or doing anything about it, therefore you're not creating trust in yourself. So we talk about sport now, we talk about academics, same thing. It's about how much effort are you going to put in. Then you trust that. Then you can go to your exam and test, and then you should fly through the exam papers or test papers. So it follows into sport as well, and that's what I follow. Work hard, it creates a trust. Then what else does it do for you? It creates opportunities. And I wrote some notes here where because you're working hard, it makes you take opportunities and you gain experience from that if you're winning or losing. So no matter what the outcome is, as long as you're putting the work ethic in and the amount of effort you put in, then you'll gain something out of that. You'll gain the experience, because once you get to a match like the British Irish Lions now, like Leon said now, when he played there for the first time, a great experience for him. I'm sure during that period, that week, I mean, he was out up and ready to play and trying different things and really focus on playing against whoever he was playing against the Lions. Now from the Lions, he's gained that experience. Now he can put it into his Currie Cup and Super Rugby and wherever he's going forward. So that's great. Now you must take it and use it and trust the process. So for me, that's what I did in the past and now currently is I really put the time and effort in. I think you get reward out of it. I'm always the one that will probably get there first and leave last. I'm one of those type of people. And yeah, maybe a good example I can share with you guys is that at the Kings, I was there for 8 years, and through a up and down period, I think we all know that, what happens at the Kings. And in 2016, I mean, I wasn't paid for about a year. But and the only other coach there was Warren Peterson at the time. And we were playing Currie Cup. There were two of us playing in the Currie Cup 2016 with no pay. So therefore, you stick it out, work hard, carry on going. And what happened? Luckily, other coaches noticed me or said, listen, there's an analyst there at the Kings. Got a good work ethic. He sticks it out, you know, and the word got around, I guess. And so that's a story that I always like to tell, is that no matter what happens in your life, don't just jump and go to another place or whatever. Make sure it's the right call, be certain, but work hard, because it'll come. So yeah, that's me.
Lindsay, you've got me fired up here, mate. It feels like I want to run onto the rugby field. Thank you. The next panelist that I want to introduce, also quite a familiar face to all of those that are involved with Selborne College, Mr. Piwe Nomlomo. Piwe matriculated from Selborne in 2004, after which he joined the Sharks Academy before returning to play for Border. He ended his playing career with Border prematurely, enabling him to return to his alma mater, and thus his coaching career started. He had great success at Selborne between a stint at the Kings. Numerous Selbornians representing SA schools during his tenure as coach. Piwe is currently on the coaching staff at the Sharks. Piwe, could you enlighten us a little bit about your life story?
Yeah, thanks, JC, and good evening to the rest of the panelists. I don't know him, Gidge, if he's under pressure. Do you want to take him quickly, or is it...
Let's carry on with UP, and then we'll get back to him, Gidge.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so again, Tracy, apologies for jumping in late. We were just at a session, and program had to change, unfortunately. Just to get back to your question, yeah, well, I want just the rest of the other guys finished Selborne, like you said, correctly said, 2004. Had some awesome memories. In fact, in Durbs, where I stay now, there's about 10 guys that we finish together, and we get together as much as we possibly can. And those are still my closest mates, and that relationship was formed at Selborne, you know. Yeah, we'll tell stories as we get along. I don't know if you want me to just carry on, or you'll fire away, Chasey.
No, that's fine, P. So let's maybe give Aviwe welcome back.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem. You were halfway through telling us your story about your upbringing and about the competitiveness. Can you carry on there with us?
Yeah, as I said, coming to Selborne from a smaller school, it was always for me. I just wanted to be better than any other person on the sports field. So I realized, I think, as I said, I realized in grade 10. I don't know if you got that. I realized in grade 10 that I need to work a lot harder on my skills, not only rely on my talent. From then on, I think kicked on and became one of the better cricketers at Selborne from grade 11 and 12. So I think not putting myself under that pressure, but trying to compete as much as I can, and a good work ethic is what I've carried on even post school. After high school, I attended Border Academy, Cricket Academy, where I had a great time there. But then I moved to Cape Town. I met Old Selbornian, I think he matriculated in the 1960s, Jock McConaughey, who took me under his wing and brought me to Cape Town. I played for Pinelands Cricket Club there. And then it wasn't long before the selectors here at Western Province also noticed me from my club performances. And then I played a bit of cricket for Western Province with other old boys, Martin Walters, Romano Ramu, where we won a few trophies for Western Province. And then I went through a little bit of a slump where I got dropped for two or so years and went to UWC. And that's where I revived my cricket, I think, and was back on the up. And then I think for me, the big break came in 2014, where I started playing for the Cobras. Obviously played for a star-studded side, where I was the only person that hadn't played Proteas in the whole side. That was a bit intimidating for me as well, and also not playing in the role that I wanted to play. Where there as well, I had to go through a lot of challenges. Obviously, media, outside noise, where there was a phase where the coaches started in cricket. I think there was quite a low life in my sporting career as well. But you when you start with playing professional cricket, you kind of get to a point where you gotta shut the outside noise a bit and focus on what you gotta do, because it's not everyone that can play professional sport. And if the people that are not playing are working offices, so they wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. So you kind of shut that out and carry on working hard, and things improved for me from there. And I think a highlight for me in my career so far was being named Cobras Player of the Year in 17-18 season. But I've been quite disappointed that I haven't been able to kick on from there and play at a high level, Proteas or South African A. So, but it's still a big dream of mine to play for the Proteas, even if it's one game or so. To fulfill a childhood dream. But yeah, I'm looking forward to still. I don't consider myself as old yet. I've still got a fresh body and still fit. So hopefully, next couple of years I can go on the green and gold.
I'm very disappointed, Aviwe, that you mentioned nothing about your rugby playing ability. To the viewers that are tuning in, Viewer was a multi-talented sportsman at school, and as good as he was at cricket, he was a fantastic rugby player as well. But we'll ask a few more questions around that a little bit later. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Ulrich van den Berg. Ulrich matriculated from Selborne in 1992. He won the South African Amateur Stroke Play Championship in 1997. He turned professional in 1999 and joined the Sunshine Tour. He has several tournament victories. Ulrich played also on the European Tour in 2008 and 2009. Ulrich, for the people that are joining us, can you give us a little bit about your life? Ulrich, if you can, I think you're muted at the moment.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. We got you.
Okay, cool. To everybody, welcome as well, and to all the panelists, well done on all your careers. We follow you with great pride, being Old Selbornian. But yeah, getting back to my little story, yeah, I finished school, as you said, in '92, and since then it's pretty much been all golf. I did get my little degree at Rhodes University straight out of school, and then pursued a professional career from 1999. Professional golf isn't the easiest world to try and crack it in. So it's very cutthroat. The purses are obviously weighted to where the TV is, and that's on the US Tour. I thankfully got a couple more years than those 2 years on the European Tour. I got about 4 or 5 years on the European Tour. So I was able to get a taste of high level golf at its at the top end. Played with some of the great players that the world's ever had. I played with a couple number ones in the world in my time, so I've seen the difference in divide from a top 250 player in the world to a number one. And I just think for the young guys, the guys at Selborne, the main thing is to have that dream, and I was a little 8-year-old that started playing golf on the weekends to try and keep me busy when I wasn't playing sport at school, and this little 8-year-old decided then that I'd become a professional golfer, and lo and behold, that's where my life journey's taken me. So I think a dream is a very important and positive thing that a young aspiring little sportsman at school can foster. You need to nurture that dream, and obviously with hard work and doing what you do well, you can become like one of these guys, one of these panelists that are sitting here tonight. So for the guys out there, I was lucky, with when I got to standard 6, I'm a Trix being your headmaster actually at the moment. Andrew Dewar, he was one of my inspirations at school. He came from a group of guys that was exceptionally talented. I think 5 of his hockey side were SS schools that year in 1988, him being one of them. I think he must have just touched on being an SS schools cricketer as well. So Andrew was elite at school, and we looked up to those guys, and we kind of gauged ourselves against those white blazers that we used to see walking around the school, And another one of my heroes growing up in standard 6 was Brendan Ferry, who played cricket for Border first class cricket when he was 17. It was such a tangible thing to see success already breeding at that age that we could aspire to, and it was right there in front of us. And he was such a nice guy. He was my old pot, and he was incredibly good to us. And we could thrive off these guys that we could, really see in front of us, and it was real. And if we worked hard, we could get there. So golf's been good to me. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to play with some great players, seen some great places. I don't think I've reached the heights that I would like to have, but that's sport, and that's how it goes. People see you playing, they don't know that you're injured, that you're battling, from the night before's runny tummy, and they want to know why you shoot a 75 the next day. But that's life. We all have it. Every competitor has that. But especially in golf, I think more than most sports is if you're not prepared to get up from the failures, you're not cut out to be a professional golfer, because in saying that, we lose way more than we win. So in my career, I've been lucky enough to win 8 times, and I've probably played 500 events. So you don't win a lot, and there's more disappointment. Last week I was in Cape Town. I'm not playing full time anymore, but made a bogey on the last hole to miss the cut by 1. I could have run up Table Mountain, jumped off the top without a parachute, you know. So that's how it makes you feel. That's what, you know, that's what sport happens to you. But again, for the lighties listening out there, you know, you've got to take your disappointments, look at it analytically, like Lindsay does with his teams, and how do we improve from that? You know, how do we learn from that mistake that you've made, even at 47 years of age, playing as a veteran and making a mistake that a dumbass shouldn't make, you know? And that's sport, and that's how we all learn to improve. And learning by your mistakes makes you a winner.
Ulrich, I can tell you, if I ever got questioned by my buddies for shooting a 75, I'd be a very upset individual.
You'd be locked up and put in jail for breaking your handicap by too much.
Gentlemen, as we proceed now, I want to encourage the people that are tuning in. If there are any questions that you have for any of the panelists, please do put it into the text bar. Those questions will show up my side, and I will get those questions across to the panelists. I want to encourage the panelists. So I'm going to go through each one of you guys, and I'm going to ask various questions that are very specific to you guys. Please, if another panelist wants to jump in and answer, then please let's have a discussion around this. So Lindsay, you are unfortunately top left here, so I'm going to start with you. I think we see a lot of you, Lindsay. We see a lot of you, and where we see a lot of you is on the TV, sitting right next to the Rassie Erasmuses, the Jacques Nienaubers. Could you give a little bit of insight specifically? So you have spoken about the fact that you are an analyst. What does that specifically look like before a game, during a game, and after a game? What is the type of information that you're giving to the coaches?
Okay, so that's a good question. And I don't want to go, I can speak for about 2 hours here about this, but I'm going to go straight into it. And so pre-game, that's where everything happens. That's where the big ball game is actually. So what we all do and what I do is that I collect about 3 to 5 matches. So if you're playing Wales now on the 2nd of July, I'll get at least 5 games previous to that, and we will start analyzing all of them and looking at trends. And when I say trends, that's literally where do they score their points from? Is it lineouts? Is it scrums? Is it what type of zone on the field are they scoring from? I also look at how many kicks they kick, where do they kick, how can we win the ball back? So there's just so much that you can do with stats and manipulate it the way you want to. But like I tell everyone as well, don't be careful just to follow stats. Stats is just a guideline. That's all it is. That's not the go-to. Stats is a guideline, but it's up to you how to make it work. Okay, so you still got to put the effort in on the field. So if I say we want to kick a bit more, it doesn't mean, listen, we kick everything and we just kick it. I often say you got to attack well to kick well. That means you're applying pressure first, then you're kicking, and then you apply the pressure by the kick. So that's just a simple part where, listen, don't just kick the ball, kick on your terms. Attack well to kick well. That's one little example. So going back to the pre-thing, so we do a whole bunch of analysis like that. Us as coaches will present in their departments, such as defense, attack, lineouts and scrum work, and off the ball, and we'll come to an agreement. And that's including my stats and what I've picked up, or my trends, whatever. I look at the picture as a whole, so that's what I do. And then we come to an agreement, and we have to come to an agreement. Not one coach or not one person is going to say, listen, I disagree with that. I feel when we play against Wales now, that's not going to work. But then we go ahead with it. No, we have to trust the process. Like I mentioned earlier in my beginning of the chat, is that we're all going to get the trust and work together. And then, so yeah, that's a pre. So we've built that. We've got the trust, and we're now going to display it now onto the field, training field. That's what I mean, and execute on the training field. Because why do we want to execute on the training field? We want to gain experience for the week ahead against now Wales. So we've done the prep. Now we do the prep on the field. Let's execute. We're not just going through the motions on the field. Then you're wasting your time. And so to make us ready for the game on Saturday. Okay, so that's now training and the prep. Now during the game, I'll set up in the coach's box a couple of laptops that we share, some footage, and during a live game, I'll be coding. It's called coding, where you create a bit of stats and a bit of boarding plays in line-out scrums and kickoffs and so on, and turnovers, etc. And because why? That's a quick way that we can quickly review something. So often Rassie or Jacques now, he will say, Linz, did you see something on that line-out defense? Why did Polly come in and Damien de Allende came in and England scored that try, that first phase try against us at Twickenham in November, for example. Now I can quickly go back to that, have a look, and say, here we go. Give the feedback down to the players or to the management staff, the doctor or the physio on the field. They can relay the message down to the players immediately. So that's why the live scenario is very important for us, that we give the information as quick as possible. Obviously afterwards is a bit too late. So during a live game, it's very important for us to have a bit of a pathway of how to do things and how to communicate down there to the players. At halftime is very important. I created a sheet where every department will have a bit of notes. So even during the live now, I will ask them, okay, what notes do you want to share at halftime to the players? We've got to be specific to the point. We can't, at halftime, there's not much time that we have to wobble and carry on. So listen, 2 or 3 points that are key to make a difference in the game. So and that's what happens at halftime. We come in, I put that onto a screen, monitor screen. I'll make sure there's one there. Put that on there. The players can read it as they sit down, and then the coaches fire away with it. So that's what happens during a live game, a live scenario. Then afterwards, I'll get that package of the game. There's a whole bunch of couple of angles, close view, wide view, end on, reverse, and so on. There's spider cam even. There's so many views that you can get. We put that together. I give it to all the coaches already. So that evening, they can do as they want. They can either have a drink, or they can go back to the room and watch the game straight away. And they'll be doing their review analysis. Because at the Boks, we play every week. I know, okay, the franchises as well, but I'm just talking about ourselves. So that Sunday, we're already on it in the mornings. Often you'll see us either in the boardroom or downstairs in our own space. And we were working as a review process individually. Then at about 6 o'clock in the evening, we'll come together as a coaching group, and we discuss again in each department what they picked up, what they saw, and again we come to an agreement. Okay, this is what maybe we must share to the players now on Monday or that Sunday evening already, just to give them a heads up of what we're going to discuss. So yeah, again, it comes on to a lot of detail. I think the more detail you put in and the more work you put in, the better the players and the management and people understand what the processes are. I think that's definitely key. I mean, you can't just run onto the field anymore. That's not how things are going. And in cricket, I'm sure is the same, and all the other sports. It's very technical now, and yeah, if someone else wants to jump in, then you're more than welcome.
Well, you can't just run onto the field unless, of course, you're Rassie Erasmus.
Okay, yeah, let's leave that there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but listen, he's a good coach. I'll give that to him. He's a really good coach, and yeah, I've got respect for him. So yeah.
Lindsay, thank you. So you've obviously alluded it's an incredibly intricate process that you go through, and that's just on game day. So I think for the people that are tuning in, analyzing is a niche market. I mean, you can't just rock up at NMU and go and study rugby analysis. How did you end up in this field?
Again, a good question. And I tell a lot of, when I was at the Kings there, I was there helping Grey PE and in NMU as well, trying to get that going, just to put it out there, because everyone thinks, a good example now, boys, is that everyone wants to be a Springbok rugby player or a Protea cricketer or South African golfer, world's best, and so on. Everyone wants to be that, but sometimes you just can't. But there's other ways that you can be that. You can be an analyst, you can be a physio, you can be a doctor, you can be a coach, you can be whatever you want to be. you know. But it just doesn't have to, if it doesn't work out that you're a player, then work out the next way. Okay, what can I do? So that's what I did. I figured it out. I think we all have at stages, and I think the boys will figure it out as well. Is that when you get to a stage in your rugby career as a player, you realize that you might not go to that next step. You know, now you're going to think of family, you're going to think of money, you're going to think of that life, and so then the next step was like, okay, I enjoy rugby. I want to stay involved in rugby. So maybe I must go help out somewhere, and because I've watched games. I was a ball boy in my younger days with my dad and so on, and things like that. So I've watched a lot of rugby, and that's what I did now at the Kings. I went in. I said, listen, can I please help out you? I will do anything. And they said, no, you can film games or film trainings, whatever. I said, yes, no, 100%. And just from that, I didn't have a software that back in those days, but I'd watch it normally on a QuickTime movie player. Now we all got laptops, and you can pause it, go back, write notes down. You know, that's analysis. You're doing analysis already about just watching your own footage or watching a training session or watching what you filmed on a camera. You're doing analysis. So I think that's important. That's how I started, and that's how I try to get the grade PE and NMU young boys to come in and just show them the ropes. I'll pay them $50, $100 a game just to come and film or just be part of it. You know, gain that experience of listen. You can also be an analyst. You can also do something else than just a player. So yeah, if that answers your question, yeah.
Lindsay, thank you. So I think the next question that I'm going to ask is, Ngij, I think we've got some good insight now on how much analysis goes into specifically the Springbok rugby setup. When it comes to the cricket setup, how much time and energy do you guys spend on actually analyzing the opposition when it comes to bowlers and batsmen and stuff like that?
I think in cricket, it's quite new that we have analysts in our team. You in the past you could use just the coach showing us videos and you as a team discuss it. But now our analyst is actually Romano Ramu, who matriculated at Selborne in 2005. He does. I think they do the most work really, because he stays up late at night looking for videos to show us. So there's obviously a lot more platforms now where you can watch the games online and even on TV, obviously. So he collects all the data and shows us videos as a team. We have a team meeting to discuss the following game, and then he shows us a few videos. But there's also a lot of discussions amongst us, the whole team, the guys who, obviously we play a lot against each other. There's only 8 teams, so you play very often against the same opposition. So you obviously get to know the certain players that they are. So he'll put up what he thinks or feels we should do to a certain batter or bowler, and then as a team we discuss if there's an alternative plan where we can go. But obviously it also differs a lot in cricket. Different pitch conditions, different boundary sizes, for example. But now in cricket there's a lot more analysts now. Each team has got an analyst now, whereas 3 years ago only 2 teams had an analyst. So it's obviously growing a lot. As you said, Lindsay didn't study to be an analyst. So Romano too didn't do that, but he met the former Proteas analyst, and he told him he was interested in this, and he did his master's on the course that he was doing on, but he also did a lot of work with the Proteas analyst and found a way to get into cricket, and that's where he wanted to be as well, into sport. He didn't want to go work an office job, and he's here right now with us.
I want to pose this question to all the panelists, but Ngij, you can start us off. So you've had quite a successful career when it comes to cricket. If you could go back to school, would you still play the 2 sports in rugby and cricket, or would you just play cricket, knowing that you've now got a career in cricket?
There's no ways I would only have played cricket. I think rugby season brought a whole different vibe to the school. It was just exciting when it was rugby season. You could just feel the different energy throughout the whole school, not just everyone that played rugby. Obviously, from rugby, I think you learn a lot of different skill sets when you play another sport. I think guys that specialize early sometimes get bored of the sport. I know a lot of guys that have got bored of the sport because they're doing the same thing over and over. So for me, I definitely wouldn't have gone just play cricket and specialize in it. I also think I learned how to play in front of big crowds because you don't get that with cricket at school. You definitely get it if you're playing first team rugby at a big boys' school. And the different connections that I made with the different guys on the different sports codes was a lot different because you play with a different crowd. So I wouldn't change anything. I love rugby. It's an amazing sport. I played a little bit after school, res league there at UCT, but definitely, obviously, wouldn't have changed anything. I'm happy that I played rugby and got to learn a lot of different things from cricket.
Ulrich, I'm going to pose this question to you. With the professionalism of sport, getting ever more demanding at schools, how do we balance that? How do we get that balance between a boy who is talented in a summer sport and a boy who's talented in a winter sport?
Yeah, I think it's a very tricky situation. I think, I see it with golf now, where we've actually got golf schools springing up, where kids now leave school and they go to a golf school, and it's just golf. From the age of 13, 14 years old, they dialed into doing a little bit of homework every day, a little bit of schoolwork, and then being on the range for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, playing, practicing. And I just feel like, especially, like definitely with cricket and golf, you don't mature as early as maybe like rugby. You probably got a shorter lifespan, golf a longer lifespan than cricket, but cricket more than rugby, I would say. But there's that one thing that we don't talk about, which is burnout, and I've seen it with a lot of kids. Burnout is a real thing, and it's you see it with a lot of swimmers. My wife was an ex-swimmer, so I've been able to see it with some youngsters in swimming. When they push too early, they hit that peak once and they can't get back to that level again. And I just feel that at school you need, as Majid said there, that you want to play all the sports. You want to keep yourself active. But the way sport is going, especially like with the individual sports, if you're not doing tennis full time, if you're not doing golf full time, you're probably going to be behind the 8 ball. So you can't compete at that level unless you're doing it with the other guys. But in saying that, burnout is a real thing. So I have my reservations about just playing one sport too early. But in saying that, the good young players are the ones that are doing it. So it's a catch-22, actually.
Yeah. Ulrich, while we've got you, obviously golf is an incredibly technical sport, but I think what separates you guys from all other sports people is your mentality. How much time do you, as a professional golfer, actually put into the mental conditioning side of things?
No, listen, golf is probably, in terms of the mental side. If you're not like really tough mentally in golf, you're not going to make it, because the downs are way outweigh the good times. So I just feel that there's so much you can do to become sharp, and I think it was Lindsay again talking about processes, and that's the key, is to be able to, in any sport, whether it's cricket, rugby, tennis, whatever it is, if you stick to your processes and you believe in those processes and you stay in your lane, you don't veer off. Especially as a golfer, you know that you're a left to right player. You stick with playing a shot. You don't take on pins that are on the left hand side. You put it in the green, take your par, walk to the next hole. You have that doggedness to believe in what you're doing. You can liken it to rugby. If you're a forward pack dominated team, you stick with your forwards. You don't try and be extravagant. You win ugly, and golf is like that. And golf, especially, where all types of bodies can play the game. You've got small guys, you've got big guys, you've got fat guys, you've got thin guys. It doesn't take a certain type of physique to be a champion. And that's where knowing your game, understanding what you do well, is critical to you becoming the player that you can be, and being able to stay in your lane and stay what you're doing well. But that comes with incredible mental discipline. And with that mental discipline, you know, people have to practice it. And sports psychologists come into it, guys like Lindsay, where you're analyzing a lot of stuff, like Piwe, where they're doing all this analysis. That is giving the players the opportunity to be better than the other players. And that's what sport's all about. But again, you know, the mental side is probably the key divider between the talented and the super talented.
Leon, you've obviously had a great breakthrough season, having played for Western Province and the Stormers. Unfortunately, you know, you haven't made the touring squad at the moment. Where are the Stormers off to?
They're off to Ireland at the moment.
Yes.
They can't.
How do you deal with not making a team, Leon?
So obviously it's quite a shock when you first hear the news. But it's also a mental thing. You have to find what drives you and why you're in the sport. And you know, there's a lot of things that happen in rugby and in sport that can throw you off. You know, the coach that wants to play a specific way this week, and you know, things are happening that will throw you off. But you need to ground yourself, ask why you're doing it, and then look at the positives. So in terms of me not going overseas, the positive I get out of it is I'm still quite a young prop. I got a lot to learn. There's a lot I need to do growing wise to get to someone like Stephen Kitshoff's level, and growing in terms of strength, in terms of everything. So although I'm not going back, or I'm not going on tour, I know this is a great time for me to improve, for me to go to the gym and do the extras, and yeah, initially the shock it's quite tough, but you have to keep looking at the positives, keep seeing how you can constantly improve the whole time. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be a long career for yourself if you dwell on the negatives. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.
Leon, so you've alluded to it. You are still a baby when it comes to front rowers in terms of age. What can we expect from Leon Lions in the next couple of years?
So the next couple of years, so actually, let me start from when I came out of school. I went to the under 19 institute at Western Province, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to take rugby seriously or not. So I gave myself a year gap year, no studying or anything like that, and I gave myself a proper year. I saw that I can really make it in the sport and achieve something in it. So I decided to focus on the sport, and I decided to also continue studying and staying in Cape Town. And now recently I've just got my degree. I finished studying, finished playing for Marties, which was quite tough, time consuming, trying to do a degree and play rugby. And now at this current stage, I have a lot more time to grow. I mentioned it just now, and develop myself where I need to develop as a prop. It takes quite a while. A lot of technical things you need to do, strength, knowledge and experience that you have to gain. You know, prop, one day you could be at the top and scrumming everyone, and then the next day someone scrums you, or you have a bad scrumming day, and it's like it's the dark arts being a prop. It's quite a scary place to be. But yeah, in the next couple of years, I really want to put a lot in developing myself to become a big time athlete. It's going to take time and commitment, but I'm ready to do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Leon. There's a couple of questions coming through here, gentlemen. Ulrich, this question is for you, from Mr. Jua. Sport as a career is seen as a glamorous career. However, much hard work is put in behind the scenes, such as the analogy of the iceberg. How crucial is the mental and emotional strength, and how can players develop this characteristic, or is it innate? Secondly, for young aspiring professional sportsmen, would you encourage them to study for a qualification?
Okay, let's take care of the second question first. That's a non-negotiable. You have to do something else. Like Leon's done his degree, that's imperative. I really believe that, because there's no security in sport. I mean, Leon now, God forbid, I mean, he goes into a scrum and he hurts his back and he's injured for a while. You know, some guys, golfers, we hurt ourselves. There's a back injury, you slip a disc and you're out. What then? You know, so you have to have that behind you just in case. The mental fortitude, listen, it is something that's innate. It's something that's built into your heart. You know, you're either a warrior or you're not. You're either prepared to take those punches and get up again, or you're not. And some guys have that built-in mechanism. We all remember those guys at school who are just, you know, they've got that, they just never give in, you know. And some of those guys, those are the guys that seem to always succeed. I mean, I grew up, I told you about Andrew, and he's talented bunch of 98 guys, but I mean, my best friend from sub-8 to matric was Andre Force, and we 4 days apart in age, and we went to Sterling Primary together at Selborne College, and he wasn't the biggest guy. He wasn't. He was a very talented guy, brilliant cricketer, brilliant rugby player, superb tennis player, great athlete, great swimmer. So he was an all-rounder, but he wasn't the best rugby player at school. But Andre Force had something that all great sportsmen need, and that is a belief in yourself, to train harder than everyone else, to do more than everyone else. If you told Andre to do 10 laps, he did 12. He was that type of guy. And Avos, he had that inside of his heart that he was going to be something in rugby, and he made it. And I always looked up to Avos in that respect, is that he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the best growing up. There were other names in the border area, in the South African area, that in South Africa, that were at the time bigger names, but Avos made it to the top. Captain South Africa, played for them 30 odd times, and that comes from that something that's inside of your heart, that just never say die attitude. And if you don't have that fortitude, you're going to get knocked down in sport, and you're going to, like Leon said, now he's been left out the side, but that makes him tougher. He's going to train harder. He's going, next time he packs up against those other boys, he's going to be tough to beat.
Sure. The next question that we got here, Viwe, what does it take for a youngster to make a name for himself in the bigger picture?
It's a good question. Obviously, performance is the only way to make a name for yourself, I think. But to make it as an athlete, I think the attributes that you need is you need confidence. Firstly, confidence in your ability, or confidence into doing well in any situation. You need a good work ethic. That's a non-negotiable. You need to work hard. Otherwise, talent's not going to get you as far as you'd like. As I said earlier, competitiveness, you need to have that, and that's obvious. A good attitude, I think, good attitude to train properly, to eat well as well. You need good nutrition to become a good athlete in many different sports. And I think you need a good mental capacity, because obviously you need to outthink the opposition and be able to do better than them in any or most situations, I think.
Gentlemen, we've got a couple of questions coming up here, and we've only got 5 minutes left. Lindsay, there's a question for you. Are there any locker room rituals, routines that stick out to you that any of the Springboks do?
So there's some obviously I can't talk about. But from what I've seen, I'm not going to mention names, but some people like to just like put a specific shoe on first. You know, they'll pack. There's a certain way to pack things. So the whole changing room will be sorted out into a specific way that the management have put up. But then when that player comes in, like a Kwagga Smith, let me just say Kwagga Smith, he'll come in and change certain things. And you move a pendant, or you move the jersey somewhere else, and you rather put his shirt that he's going to wear now for the warm-up over there. There's just little things like that. And also taping. Leon, I think there's a lot of guys can say now, taping now these days, there'll be specific messages on there. A lot comes with dad and so on like that. But yeah, it's a difficult one also because I'm not really there when the boys are just about to run out, so I don't know that. Maybe I'd miss a couple, but I definitely know some boys like to pray and go down on their knees and do that type of thing. And like I said, I mentioned Kwacha moves. You put something in place, but he'll move it away and make his own little locker. Yeah.
Leon, question for you. How did you find the transition from school rugby to under 20 and then obviously the senior ranks? What was the biggest changing difference for you?
So from school rugby to under 20s or under 21s, I would say the biggest difference is the size of the guys and the speed at which the game is played. That's quite a big jump at school. I don't think as much effort goes into conditioning your body. It's more playing for fun and playing for your brothers. There's a lot of passion still, both sides. But obviously under 21s, I think there's more time to develop your physical attributes. And I would say going from under 21s to Varsity Cup, and then from Varsity Cup to Currie Cup and the Stormers, I would say in each level, the biggest difference is it's not so much speed and strength, but how intense it gets if you make a mistake. If you make one mistake, then the opposition team pounces on that mistake. You have to be focused the whole time in the game. There's no room for error. Making a mistake is very damaging onto a team. So at school, I would say you can maybe make one or two mistakes and you get away with it. But when you're up and playing for the Stormers, if you make one mistake, you find yourself in your 5-meter defending the try line. So that level of focus, I think, is a big jump. Not so much. Obviously, physically, but focus, I think, is a big one.
Ulrich, the next question is for you. When your playing days end, is your future still going to be in golf, or are you going to look into other avenues?
Okay, so for the last 4 years haven't been playing full time. I had a big hip operation in 2018, so that's retarded my golfing career. So I still play, and obviously don't compete at the level that I used to, because I'm not playing full time. I'm in the golfing industry, and I have a business within the golfing industry. So yeah, so my focus isn't on full-time professional golf anymore. So, but you know, with obviously the sight of 50 coming, and there's senior tours around the world, you know, keeping fit and staying relevant and staying competitive is still an option for me to explore. If at 50 I get there and I am still able to compete at some level.
Right. Then Lindsay, you're going to have to field this one by yourself. This was for yourself and Piwe. Talking about the Kings and what was going on there. How critical is it for you, Lindsay, to share the rough times you endured as a source of motivation to those who only see you on TV and think the success was overnight and don't get to see the other side of the tough process?
Yeah, I think it's vital. It's important. So I think I've alluded to it earlier, is that you have to go through those times. I think every single sportsman here has, either via injury or you weren't selected or whatever the case might be. Even if you couldn't get to the match because of your broken down car or something went wrong. It's okay. Work with it, you know. It doesn't mean just give up there. And a prime example, what I said about the Kings, when I wasn't paid for a year, that was massive for me. I mean, I was just getting married. Got a house. Baby was coming along the way, and now I've got no pay. But then I thought to myself, okay, listen, okay, maybe ask my parents, maybe to help me out. I've got some savings to back me, and I scrape through the days and through the weeks and through the months as you work on. But then you realize, listen, there's a bigger picture here. If I do, sort of what I said, if I do this, people are going to trust me. They're going to follow me. I'm going to improve myself as well, because now I'm dealing as a coach as well. Another thing, analysis are all coaches, by the way. All the coaches are analysis, if you think about it that way. So it doesn't mean I'm just an analyst on my own. Every single coach out there, Rassie Erasmus, he's one of the best analysts. Eddie Jones, Jake White, and so on. Anyway, so going back to the Kings thing, so go through those times, experience what you can do with it. And I did, and I coached a bit with Bar and Peterson. We had fun times. I had Shakes, who's now the Blitzbox captain. He was there with us during that time as well, also limited pay. But we would play around with him. We would put him at scrum half even. Put the ball in and just run and do something on the blind side. So experiment, work with what you got, take it on the chin, and I promise you, someone will see, or you'll gain advantage from it later on. You won't get it from now immediately. I get that, but later on. And yes, thank goodness the Springboks came knocking on my door. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we're obviously running out of time here. Last question, and Gidge, can you describe your worst day out on the sports field and share with us what you learned from that experience?
I think for me, there was a season where we were brilliant. We played the 2018-19 season. We were amazing that whole season, and we only lost once in the 4-day competition. And on the last day, we were meant to win the competition, but we drew our game. But the team that was second won their game in the last 10 minutes of the day's play. I think for all of us it was devastating, because we worked so hard and we thought we'd had the perfect competition, but we ended up coming second. There were a lot of tears that day in the dressing room. But then I think you learn that no matter how well you play, someone else is allowed to play better than you. And I think that's what we need to accept as sportsmen or athletes, that no matter how good you are on a certain day, someone else is allowed to play better than you. And you just got to applaud them or give them a handshake and say, well done, because nothing's always going to go your way. And that's the only way you learn in sport. That you'll be, as Ulrich said, there's a lot of failures in golf. There are plenty in cricket too. So you need to be able to bounce back and look to the next game, or work harder next time.
Sure. Guys, I think that's us for this evening. Firstly, to you guys as panelists, thank you so much for giving up your time. It really was insightful just hearing from your different backgrounds what it is that you guys have gone through, and sharing insights into, what has sort of put you guys a level ahead. So I'm sure to everyone who attended, thank you so much for your time. I really hope that you guys got something out of it. And yeah, please tune in for the next webinar, which will be in a month's time. All right, guys, from Selborne College's side, thank you. Have a good evening. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.